to the premiere of The Page, Season 3, in Universe. That's right. This season, we're going to go into some of the most popular art authors in the spectrums. We're going to go into their universes and kind of do more of a deep dive, if you will. And on this episode, we're diving into the Cosmere. We're diving into Brandon Sanderson Cosmere to discuss and to talk about and to review Warbreaker. But you know, I don't do this alone. I don't dare do this alone. I have my lovely co-host. I present to you the lovely, the beautiful, the talented, the whimsical, the intransical, the intelligent, the mystical, the magical, the galactically charming LB. How's it going?
That's got to be a record for you. I think we had 10 epithets there.
Yeah.
Galactic. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I know sometimes when I send LB messages all the time, and sometimes because how the caveman sometimes talks, it doesn't emote well in print. So all you see is like, I'm gonna trim the pants off you. It's like, that's really fucking creepy, dude. But what I really mean is, I'm gonna trim the pants off you. But it doesn't come out that way. So
of course not.
Yeah.
I run into those issues all the time. People think I'm being offensive when I'm just trying to be playful.
Yeah, well, it's
happens.
It's different for the caveman because the strength is you don't know what I'm gonna say. But the flip side is, you don't know what the fuck I'm gonna say. Like, I'm out with the crew all the time, and they are literally scared, because they don't know what I'm going to say. And you can say that about a lot of people, but watch this network enough, and no, you don't know what I'm gonna say. So it could be quite offensive, charming, you don't know what. But I'm glad we worked that out.
Yeah, no worries, man.
All right, so we're diving into the Cosmere. Brandon Sanderson's. Yeah. I'm excited.
So, I mean, do you want me to do my usual breakdown of our author here?
So what we're gonna do? We're gonna break this down. We're gonna discuss a little bit about the history and bio about Brandon Sanderson and the Warbreaker, and then we're gonna talk about what we like, what we didn't like, in the way of check marks and hexes, and at the end, we're either gonna give this a recommend or not recommend, a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and don't worry, I did not forget, spoilers ahead, so I'm going to pass it over to LB to kick us off. LB, please.
Thank you. Alrighty, well, we have done Brandon Sanderson before. We covered Mistborn. So if you do want to find out a little bit more about Brandon Sanderson, what he's all about and that stuff, I do believe I have a bit more of an in-depth kind of about him at the beginning of our Mistborn trilogy block. Yeah. So you can go ahead and check that out. But just for some quick facts. So Sanderson, he's so he was Sanderson. He's born in the 70s. He was a big epic fantasy reader as a kid. After being introduced to some solid books from his English teacher in 8th grade, he initially went to BYU as a biochem major. But he switched to English after leaving for a missionary trip. So he has done missionary work, and he decided that he wanted to be a writer. Basically, in this trip that he went to Korea, I do believe. I don't actually have that written down. I should. Oh, well. I hope I'm right. But basically, he realized he didn't miss the chemistry, but he did miss the writing. So he changed his major to English. He picked up a night desk clerk job specifically so he could write because they allowed him to. And in the years that he was doing his undergrad, he wrote 7 short novels.
Jesus.
Which is pretty impressive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say he published 7 short novels. He wrote them.
He wrote
in
them.
that time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And thanks to a professor of his who's also a writer, he was able to connect with his publisher, and his first book was Elantris. That was his first publication. However, he was an editor for the Leading Edge, which was BYU's sci-fi magazine. So after Elantris came Mistborn, which we've already covered. Then came The Alloy of Law, and then came Warbreaker.
Yeah.
Something that I thought was pretty cool was with Warbreaker, he decided that he was going to release online the full copy of it as he was writing it.
Yeah.
So the thing is with publishing works and publishing books is, there's a lot of copyright law around it. It's frustrating for some because, you want to read as much as you can, but sometimes it's not available.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool that he has the entirety of Warbreaker online. So you can go and you can read it online for free if you want to. It's totally all there. Now he did that because he realized he's just like, okay, as much as I can say, maybe I won't sell as many, libraries exist.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can't get books for free.
Oh,
People
yeah.
still support authors, etc. So he figured that would be a great thing to do. But the cool thing about it was he was releasing it as he was writing it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool that he did that. Nerve-wracking, I'm sure, as a writer and for his publisher. They were like, yeah, this is a crazy idea, sure.
Yeah.
But he did that with Warbreaker.
Yeah.
The other things of note, I mean, he's won plenty of awards. He's been nominated for plenty of awards. He hosts he has a YouTube channel too. Podcast.
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel too. Yeah.
He's got a YouTube channel and he hosts a podcast called Writing Excuses with a number of other nominated writers on there. He still teaches creative writing for sci-fi, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
And he was also chosen to complete the Wheel of Time series. Which is big trending right now because it's been released.
Yeah, it's a series on Amazon now. We're actually
Amazon
we're
Prime.
covering that on
I've
Encore.
heard good things about it. I've also not read Wheel of Time, but apparently fans of Wheel of Time are not a huge fan of the TV show. Anyway, that's not what this is about. We're here to talk about Warbreaker. Yeah. Those are some fast facts about Sanderson. Why don't we get into our first check mark?
All right. So before we do, we should mention this is like the third book in the Cosmere universe. And I think it was really I don't know who decided this the name of the universe, but I love the name of the universe, like the Cosmere. And it just it's like Stephen King where but unlike Stephen King, like everything happens on one planet. His Cosmere is literally like a cosmic universe. All these galaxies and all these planets exist in one world, one universe, and I think that's really, really cool. But like you said, on to the check marks. So my first check mark is going to be, and this is going to be like one of my big check marks. Unlike Mistborn, where I didn't think he did the political intrigue very well, I thought that was sloppily handled. In this, it's not sloppily handled. It's almost like two completely different writers. Like he gets into it, and he knows more of what he's doing, and the intrigue is really well handled. And it's like, what the fuck's going on? And I love it. I think it's done really well. I think it's handled in a grown-up manner. I think his writing style is more mature in this book due to that. And it's almost like, I want to say, it's almost like reading two different authors. It really, really is. It's more mature. The political intrigue is there. This is more like Game of Thrones to me, where it's more
I can see that,
of a mystery of what's going on. And I think he dangles enough of a carrot and makes you like, okay, what is going on here? And it's like you don't know. And he gives you the answers. He gives you the answers, and it's right in front of you, but he handles it in a way that you're scratching your head, and when the answers come, you're like, oh my God! So that's my first check mark.
Yeah. You know what? I have things to say about the political intrigue.
Yeah.
Not necessarily positive ones, so I'll leave that for later. But I do agree with you that it's definitely a completely different feel from Mistborn, even though, I mean, it could be said that the feel of the city is sort of the same, you know? So I like that different aspect that's in there. My first check mark and my big check mark is the magic use.
Oh my God! Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
The breath and the biochroma. Oh my
so good.
God!
I love it. And you know what? I was interested to see what he was doing with the magic in this book because this exists in the Cosmere. I was a little bit intrigued as to how that really crosses over, because we read Mistborn trilogy first. Yeah. Right? And the Mistborn trilogy, I think, sorry, I have it up here. The Cosmere includes the Elantris trilogy, Mistborn series, Stormlight, White Sand, and Warbreaker, and the sequel that will be coming. Yeah. So with the Cosmere, it's more so like the universe that things are happening within. Yeah. So I don't necessarily know if I would say that all the rules of magic exist within this same world. Yeah. Because it seems like they've got this whole history of this particular continent. Yeah. Let's say. And it doesn't, like, I don't know, that's the thing about books in sci-fi, right? Or in epic fantasy. Yeah. Is that they tend to exist within a world of their own. However, it doesn't necessarily cross out the fact that there might be more worlds than one, right? So it's a magical universe. Anyway, what I enjoyed about the magic use was that it was so thought out. Oh yeah. And it's the same as it was in Mistborn. It was really, really. I think more advanced. It's more well thought out. Definitely more so. Absolutely, I would say so. And even in the back of the book, he's got like annotations, as he tends to. Yeah. And let me just find those again. It's interesting because he's got like notes on the heightenings, and it's like, the way that they're written is like almost like research has been done on it. Obviously it's made up. It's, it's fantasy. But the way that he writes about it, it's fully a magic system that's more scientific. Yeah. And that's why I really like it, because like, okay, well, this happens because you have this, and like these magical beings exist within this system in this way. Yeah. So I really like that, and I really liked how there was that whole conversation. I mean, inevitably there's going to be someone that's learning the new magic system, and someone who's in it describes it to them, and they explain everything. But I liked how when they went into this whole explanation of it, it was like this dense science paper basically on how this magic system works, and it was very well thought out, and it doesn't deviate. There are no sections in here where you're like, okay, well, if this works like this, then how come this thing kind of happens, right? Like what about that? So I really enjoyed how that system is used, and how it moves the story forward, and how it's part of the story,
Yeah.
and it's just beautiful. That's my huge check mark for this book for sure.
And I'm just gonna jump off there. Unlike Mistborn, I found there were parts where in Mistborn that he forgot how things worked and just threw, and this happened. But in this book, nothing happens like that. Like almost nothing.
Yeah.
He almost learns a big lesson from Mistborn. He almost like, okay, that I this is what I did and I like that. Anytime you get an author that learns from their mistakes is easier. It's easier for fans to jump on board, because if you don't like something, you can guarantee that he 100% will he will 100% learn, and he listen, man, he takes all his fans' advice. Like he doesn't like listen. He listens to all the fans' advice, and he does his research. And if he's like, yeah, that was a mistake, he'll try to correct himself, or he's like, yeah. And I almost found that that's what happened with Mistborn. He's like, everybody liked the magic system, but he just at times like, okay, I have to throw this in for plot. And I almost want to say enough people, like he knew, and a lot of people didn't like that. He's like, okay, when I design a magic system, I'm going to have to be consistent with it. Right? Just like, just walking along. Oh, and this happens. No, there's nothing like it, almost like it in this book. And that's what I appreciate. Consistency with your rules, right?
Yeah. Part of me wonders if, that comes from him writing it how he did. Because he did write it with the knowledge that he's posting it online as he's writing it, his first draft.
Yeah.
And that is being discussed in forums.
Yeah.
And he's obviously reading those and being like, oh, yeah, okay, that thing and that thing. So part of me wonders if he was like a bit more aware of that.
Yeah.
As he was writing, because of the way that it was written. Also, part of me wonders, because this was written as a standalone.
Yeah.
I mean, he is writing a sequel to it, which makes sense to me, and I will talk about that later. But part of me also wonders, like, okay, well, because it's written as a standalone, and he didn't have this idea of like a trilogy in his head.
Yeah.
He's focusing on the one story rather than this whole big thing.
Yeah.
And he's able to make things a bit more succinct. I wonder if that like factored into it. But I agree with you. I really enjoy it when, authors can see like, oh crap, maybe that wasn't the best. I'll make sure to sort of hone that in and make sure I really refine that.
Yeah. And I like the fact that he's not arrogant, like some authors like will, dude, it's just a fucking book and it's like whatever. It's like, and he takes he's very thoughtful, and that's why I like one of the things I like about Brandon Sanderson. He doesn't like thumb up his nose at anybody. He goes, okay, I'll whether it's good or bad, he takes it all in, and he goes, okay, what can I do better? Was this really what I wanted to do, or did I run out of time? Oh crap, you're right, this doesn't. And I really like that, I really appreciate it, because there's some authors that just like, just be like, okay, dude, it's a fucking book. And I like, and he's not like that.
I think it speaks to the fact that he is a writer through and through.
Yeah.
And he's also a writing teacher.
Yeah.
I think that factors into that. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
he's actually like, he's constantly working with
yeah.
people who are trying to become writers.
Yeah.
And when you teach actively, not, you're a teacher and you've been there for 15 years and
yeah.
you do your job, but when you teach actively and it's a choice,
yeah.
I feel like you have a better touch of like that humility, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly learning alongside your students too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Anyway, let's move on to
All
the
right.
next check mark.
So my next check mark is the little moments in the book that really stands out to me. I'm a person that loves either in movies or television shows or like in books, the little moments For instance, there's moments I was really looking forward to, where like the God King and Theory,
Yeah.
they were slowly getting to know each other and communicate, and those were the moments I was really looking forward to, because it was character development, it was bonding, and it was great setup. It was great setup. He dangled the carrot, and he's like, "Yeah, this will." They don't happen often in the book, but each time it happens, the scene happens in the bedroom, I found myself getting more and more engaged. And there's a lot of those little moments in the book. I didn't like the big actiony moments, and we'll get to that in my X's, but the little moments of character development is what I really, really like, with like Blush Weaver and what's his name? Light Song, sitting down and talking and having dialogue. And I love that. And I love the funny moments too. And I love Light Song's funny. I love him. I love those moments. Another moment is when the God King and Theory were having sex, and she was like taking off her underwear. She's like, this is a really bad move, and I shouldn't do it. I'll remember later. I'll remember that, because I wanna, it's my husband. I've got a sexy time now, and I'm like, yes, and I'm like, I was laughing so hard. It was really great, and I found a lot of those moments. His humor has improved too. Has improved too, quite a bit. And I think that's due to the fact that it's not forced. He's letting it happen naturally, and organically, and it's coming in those small moments, in those small chunks, and that's one of my other check marks, is those small moments of dialogue, of character development, of humor. I mentioned a couple of moments, but there's a bunch of those moments in the book. So that's my next check mark.
Absolutely. I'm going to bounce off of that, just because, man, there's a lot of things that I didn't like in the book, to be honest. But what I really did like was those little human moments, right? Like, it was just, especially what stands out to me, of course, is Ciri and the God Kings, or Susebron's, like, relationship developing. I thought that was really wonderful. It like, that character development that they went to together as a couple was beautiful. I really enjoyed that. And there was this moment of him, like, looking out the window, and he was upset, and, like, she touched him for the first time, and he, like, sort of awkwardly put his arm around her, and it was very much like,
it's very earned. It's very
kind of thing.
It's earned. It's not like Mistborn, where it's like it's so forced, and you're just like, oh my god, dude. It's not whatsoever. Here, the relationship is earned, and you want to see these two succeed, and you're pulling for them.
Sweet.
Yeah,
it's so cute. Myself, so cute. Like, giggling as I was, like, reading it. It was adorable.
Yeah.
And it's totally great to have this. I think something that I really enjoyed about this too is where there were opportunities where it could have gotten into, how some sci-fi books, you have sex scenes, and it happens, and that's okay. It's part of life. It's part of sci-fi or whatever. But it wasn't pushed a lot in this book. I really enjoyed that, because sometimes it can be, you get beat over the head with it, and it's just like, okay, this is awkward. I just want to keep on reading. Like, can we be done?
We had those
kind of thing. I'm not in
this,
the mood. Why is my book fucking talking about this? You
know
what I mean? So it's just I liked that there was sexuality in the book, but it wasn't it wasn't overt.
Yeah.
I think there might have been more opportunities for like gay relationships, because you literally have a court of gods that are just being like, frivolously pleasure seeking.
Yeah.
So like I was a little bit like, as someone who isn't in the community, I was a little bit like, yeah, all the relationships are hetero, of course they are. But like, within that, I think that they were done really beautifully. I don't think it was overdone with the sex stuff, even though you literally had a character that was supposed to be basically, oh my gosh, not Athena.
Blush Weaver. Like, yeah, she was basically Athena.
That's awful.
She was basically
No,
Aphrodite.
I'm not thinking of Athena. That's not
Aphrodite
the that I'm thinking of.
Aphrodite.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
She's literally like that. That's kind of like a placeholder.
Yeah.
For who she's representing, and she's being very, sexual, very obtuse with it. However, there's like almost like an innocence within that. Like it's very playful.
Yeah.
And it's not overdone, I think. I mean, maybe a little bit in some parts, but it's well done. I enjoyed it. I like that it wasn't, sort of that.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, that was just me jumping off.
That's
of that.
okay.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I think my next check mark is, I mean, I'll sort of relate it to that, is the characters in here. Now, I have issues with some of them.
Me too. I mean,
bunch of them, actually,
I think you and me are gonna agree on that. Because there's like only like a couple of characters I really gravitate towards in this book. Yeah. So we'll get to that when we get to our exes.
Yeah. I will say, though, I really enjoyed the character of Light Song.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
It was just, he brought a levity to the book.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his character, but also it was just like, he was fun to read, and he was like a nice guy, and he's discovering like different talents about himself. Like he's got this like funny scene in there where he's like learning how to do pottery, and he's not good at it, and then he like goes and juggles like 5 melons. Or something.
That scene where he's like,
so funny.
Yeah, that scene.
And
sorry. That scene where he sits down, he's like, I want to talk to your old mother. Yeah, she doesn't want to talk to you. Okay. I'm gonna sleep out here then.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm gonna
so
sleep.
Good. I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yes.
I was enjoying that so much. I was like,
he
okay,
sets the fucking squirrel in. Oh, that's so good.
Like he's such a he's almost like a little brother character. I mean, like we do we do learn that he is the little brother of his priest, basically, essentially.
Yeah.
So I just love the character. I really loved it.
And
we
he's
don't
not
generally
forced.
Get to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It like he's almost like he's almost like supposed to be the foil of this like super dark, moody main character, but he almost is the main character in this. I mean, we've got a number of main characters that we follow throughout the plot. But I have to say he was probably my favorite in this, and I really, really enjoyed specifically his character, as well as other characters that did appear in this.
Yeah.
But he was great. Like, if anything, I would say like read the book just for that character. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
on to you.
So my last check mark, and this is, I think, and always if we think of other stuff, we'll double back. But this is going to be my last check mark. There's a lot of different things happening in the book, and I think that's well balanced, because no one
Yeah.
chapter he doesn't focus on one thing for too long. He'll go here, he'll go here. There's like 5 different things going on, and I think that's variety, and that kept me engaged in the book. We go around to Avenna. We'll talk about her. We'll go around to Nightblood. God damn it. We'll go there. But we have all these different things going on within this city, and it's all kind of there to keep you interested. I think he does a good enough job doing that. I think he gets there. And I really like that, because I gotta tell you, him doing that, him saying, okay, we're gonna go here now we're gonna go here, him doing that made me look forward to those upcoming scenes more. He didn't give you the drink. He gave you drops. He just made you that much thirsty. He didn't like, I'm not going to starve you, but he's like, I'm going to give you little drop at a time. But when we get there, you're going to appreciate those drops more. And I got to tell you, I did. And I think he did a great job pacing out. And there we go. I think this book is it paced off great? No. But I think it's better paced than Mistborn. So that's my last check mark.
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting that you said that, because I didn't think of that. And I think that points to how well he does it.
Yeah.
Because generally, in books like this, where it jumps around to a lot of different characters that we're focusing on, to basically 2 different story arcs that we're following, as like, you know, the 2 different princesses, the 2 different story arcs that we follow, and then also Light Song that's in there.
Yeah.
He does it well enough. Because normally when that's done in stories, I find it very jarring.
Yeah.
Especially in the first couple of chapters, when it tends to be like, okay, so we're learning about, okay, so this is what our story's about. Oh, wait, we've jumped over here.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we've jumped over here.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm back at this story. And sometimes even when I read stories like that, I have to freaking go back in the book and be like, okay, what the fuck happened here?
Yeah.
Right, okay, cool. And it feels like, you know, you're stop and starting, and it's very jarring, but he's done it so well here that it's more so just a continuation of the story, rather than, okay, this is this person's story, this is this person's story, this is this person's story.
Yeah.
No, it's a continuation, and it's sort of like it exists in time.
Yeah.
So we're seeing how everything is happening for each of these characters in the same time frame.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And I think he does pick up the pace, and he doesn't leave you on a cliffhanger for anything.
No.
But he does leave you wanting to learn more about it. You know, it's like it's a complete end to when he finishes that part of that character's storyline, when he jumps to something else.
Yeah.
Until he gets to the end, where he uses that as a device to push the anxiety of the battle, you know, because we're like, oh, you know, Ciri is held at knife point, and we're jumping to something else. Okay, right? And it creates that feeling of, you know, this is happening here, and this is happening here, and this is happening here. Will he get to the room in time? Who knows? Turn the page for more, kind of thing. Right? So I really enjoyed that too. I didn't even think about that though, because it wasn't jarring. It didn't take me out of the story, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So great point. Yeah, I totally didn't even catch that. And I will say my last checkpoint as well is my last one has to be, and this is kind of broad, but the conversations around religion that happen.
Yeah, I agree. Book. Yes, I like that. There's a lot of parallels.
Now, the thing is every single time I go back and I revisit Brandon Sanderson and I do a bio on him, I always forget that he's a religious person. Yeah. Which seems kind of funny when you look at his books with a perspective eye, because he tends to bring in religion is a huge part of his books.
Yeah.
Now, I say that because it's an aspect of the societies and the realities that he creates.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy, this was a point that I brought up with Mistborn as well, but we're going to keep it to, we're going to, guys, you should go and listen to our Mistborn trilogy series and check out what we're saying. But with how he does it here, he's got this pantheon of gods.
Yes.
That, used to be more in line with how the religion is supposed to be. They're kind of corrupt. They're not. We've got this light song character who's very frivolous and basically builds his entire character around that, but he's really not. He's a good guy. We've got this, overseeing God king of them all, who's really being manipulated and controlled by the priest. It says a lot about, how we view religion in today's society. It says a lot about how we view certain types of religion.
Yes.
And how, I'm speaking about Christianity, and how that sort of affected a whole bunch of different aspects of, I'm speaking about Canada, but how it's affected certain different Western ideologies and how we operate our school systems, our government systems, all that sort of stuff. So I think it's really interesting, the conversations that he brings up. And I always get surprised when I read his bio because he did missionary work. And I do not agree with missionary work whatsoever. I think it's vile. I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole other conversation. There's a whole other conversation.
It's like, get her! Get LB! Get her! I'm like, no.
Well,
you leave LB alone! You leave LB alone!
I don't think Christianity and religion has a place in people's lives.
Yeah.
I think it can, in a missionary sense.
Yeah, and this is what
people tend to do that, and they go and they evangelize, and it's not right.
This is what the book is kind of like at the core of, because I'm a pagan.
Yeah.
I'm a pagan myself, and it's like you have Siri coming in and like, no, this is wrong, and she kind of realizes, wait, I've been taught differently, and maybe my perspective is wrong. And you're right. You're absolutely right. There are parallels in this book that you could take away from that.
Yeah, I mean, let me try that again. What I love about it is you get different perspectives on the topic of religion as well. You have the perspective of, you have this conversation between a priest and his God, and the God being like, I am not a God, and him talking with his priest, who used to be his brother, believing that he is, knowing the entirety of this person's story, and still believing in his divinity, which is, because of this magic system that exists in the world. And then we also have these two different princesses that are completely different from one another. Ciri is almost she's only protected because she's a princess, but she doesn't believe in all of this stuff. She's more so this person that's being brought up in that religious context, but really appreciates things outside of the religion that she's being brought up to believe is heretical. But she's like, but I like colors, they're pretty, why can I not enjoy that? And she comes into the city and she's like, yeah, I was right, they are pretty. So it's we have that aspect, and then we have Vivienne.
Havana. Yeah.
Every time I saw her name, it just didn't work.
Yeah, we'll get to the naming thing. That's oh my god, holy shit, Brandon, come up with fucking better names,
Vivenna,
please.
Vivenna, there we go, Vivenna. I have the character list in front of me. And then we have her, who's supposed to be a very devout person, and she has these conversations with herself in the novel where she really questions her faith, and she goes from being super devout, wearing the things that she's supposed to wear, thinking the things that she's supposed to believe, being disdainful of the things that she's supposed to be disdainful of, and she does a complete 180, but still within the precepts of her religious ideologies. You know, she uses her faith to come to the space where she is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she actively questions the things that she should be questioning, and you know, it's really interesting how those things are juxtaposed within each other, and I really enjoy that aspect of this book because it's done really well.
Yep.
It's done really well, and it's a core point of the book, but again, it doesn't hit you over the head with this feel of being like a Christian book, or whatever, right? Like,
it does the Star Wars thing really well,
Exactly. So that's my last check. It's a big check mark, but that's my last check mark.
All right. So let's go.
First X?
Oh my God. Okay. Why do I have to? I'm big cranky.
I don't know.
I'm not cranky. I'm not cranky. All right.
Welcome to 2022. This is what we're doing.
All right. Let's get this out of the way. We mentioned this. Brandon. Your fucking names, dude. Like, honestly, like Light Song, Blush Weaver, All Mother. I don't know where you get your names from. I really don't. But that is the biggest check mark, biggest X in this book for me. It's just the names really pissed me off. Because you're going through a scene and you're like, okay, and Blush Weaver says this. How can I take your book seriously after a name like that? Like, really? Like, honestly. Like, you can't. It's all about the name. I mean, Aphrodite, when at least that's a name, okay? Athena, that's a name. Blush Weaver, that's a cartoon character. Okay? And Light Star and all this bullshit. That's what it is, bullshit. And Havana. It's like, in theory, what the fuck? Come up with good
Literally, when I read Siri,
names,
I was like, oh
dude.
no, I'm going to be thinking of Apple this entire time.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey Siri.
Just come up with names, dude. Like, real names. Real names. Every time I see that in the book, I can't, in your book, or hear it, because I'm hearing it. Excuse me. I'm hearing it in the audio narration. It's just fucking ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And
I will say, you know what? This is a thing. This is a thing in fantasy and sci-fi, is the weird name. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I understand it if you're right. Like, we got into a little bit of back and forth on this when we were talking about, oh my gosh, I can't remember. God damn, it's on my shelf. I should just go look at the shelf. But like, we got into this, you know, it's not the same as you know, going into like traditional African roots for names. Mm-hmm. That's different. Yeah. You know, when you're going for the Orishi and you're talking about that sort of stuff, that's different. Yeah. We're talking about completely made up names that are very much
cartoonish.
Like, for lack of a better word, like white fantasy names.
Like it's just cartoonish.
It happens every single fucking time that you read something.
It's just cartoonish, LB. It's cartoonish. Like, literally
it really is,
cartoonish.
And it's so frustrating because it's just like, her name could be Sarah. You could name her Sarah and it's fine. Yeah. You know, but it's like, it's almost trying too hard to be different. Yeah. And I understand names and places and all that sort of stuff. You want to have fun with it. You want to be, it's fantastical, you know, like, and that's the point of it. But it gets to be so ridiculous sometimes. Yeah. Like, for me, it wasn't so much the names of the gods, which is funny because, like, when I was reading it, like, some parts I was like, her name's Blush Weaver. It's just
like, what the, like, literally, like, Jesus Christ.
But the names of the places, I was like, I don't even know, like, every single time I came across the name of a place, I was like, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Okay, that's what this is. So, like, it didn't exist in my brain as an actual place because I was like, okay, there's, like, 3 consonants at the beginning of this freaking word. I don't know what you want me to do. Yeah. Like, you know, and I actually wanted to ask you about that because you do the audiobook. So I was like, what is the name of the city? How the fuck do they say that?
I have no idea. They keep Teteller. But Teteller is a yes, it is a made up name, yes, but it's not ridiculous compared to Blushweaver and Star.
Okay, no. I say this though because the way that it's freaking written is capital T, comma T, like LU and something else. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah. It is.
Like, I don't know. I was like, TT Place. Cool. Great. Yeah. Like, I don't know what you want from me. Anyway, rant over. I apologize.
But it's just, it's just so ridiculous and cartoonish.
Yeah.
And
it takes you out of the story.
It really does. I honestly, it really does. It really does. And to me, that's the biggest weakness so far of Brandon Sanderson. Just Sarah, Dan, Peter. It's fucking fine. If you wanna have, it's the book's called Warbreaker. Warbreaker. You know, that suggests an adult fantasy fiction book. When you read it, you expect to have all these things, your religion, the allusion to religions, that's fine, and all this kind of stuff, and biochroma, that's cool. And when you get to a character called Blushweaver or Lightsong, it's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? It's ripping me out of the story. I can't take you seriously. I really can't. So that's my X. That's my first X. What's your first X?
I mean, I did kind of wax poetical on that, or rant. But my first X for sure was it's too long.
It's fucking too. I was waiting for you to say it, dude. It's like 50 plus chapters,
650 pages.
Yeah,
and
you would
the
think
main action takes place in like the last 100 pages.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
It takes place in the last 100 pages. So, the first 550 pages
is all set up. It's all set up. It
frustrated me so much because it's like, for me, I'm not really a huge person for like political intrigue.
Yeah.
He did it really well, but there was way too much of it. There was way too much, like, we even have this whole section of the book devoted to Viviana, like...
Vivanna.
Vivanna. Going with Vivanna.
Yeah.
To Vivanna.
God
with,
damn it,
the
Brandon.
Mercenaries, with Gens and Tong Fang and Jewel.
Yeah.
And we have this whole setup there. I think it was a really great twist, and it was done exceptionally well.
But it was
all the characters were written.
all announced. You knew what, like, as soon as they were making those jokes, you're like, she's gonna get betrayed. Like, she is so naive,
right?
And it's just like,
you know what? Honestly, I didn't actually see it coming, which is like, you know, maybe that says something about me, but. Like, I was following it along because I was expecting the plot twist to happen in the palace stuff. Yeah. You know, so I was looking for it there and I wasn't expecting it there. However, because you have that twist and because you have that betrayal happen, but it doesn't, like, that sets things in motion. However, you have a good chunk of the book where you're building trust and you're developing a relationship with these people that doesn't end up coming to anything.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is there's a lot of building that happens in here, and then you just get unanswered questions and dissatisfaction in relationships because it's like, okay, well, you literally built up this entire thing. You had this little side plot of, like, her being jealous of, like, Peril and Jewel and their relationship, and it's just not even touched on.
Mm-hmm.
It literally, you're just like, oh, this thing happened, and then you're like, and he's dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. I agree.
Glad that I invested all that information in there.
Like, I mean, there's sections in the book where you literally could pare this down into a couple of pages.
Yes. Like, literally, like, it's so funny, too, because I just started this new job, as I told you at the beginning of this, and I'm doing copywriting.
Yeah.
And I'm a copy editor.
Yeah.
So, and I am an editor. I am a copy editor. But I started this new job, so I'm actively using those skills. Literally, throughout this book, I'm, like, trying to not be like, oh, you can cross that out. This thing is redundant. Why are you using this word again? That doesn't sound right. You should use something different here.
Yeah.
You don't sound quite right here. But you know what I mean? Like, so I'm going through, I'm editing as I'm reading. I'm like, oh my God, this is way too long.
Yeah.
And because I don't actually get the feeling of the book dragging.
Yeah.
Like, I don't actually feel that. But I don't feel like I want to continue reading. Like, literally,
me either. I'm like, I'm
reading some of it.
I was like,
and I'm like, I need to fucking finish this book.
Yeah.
But I'm like checking, like, I was reading it, and then I'm like checking my phone. I'm
like 50 plus episodes, like 50 plus chapters. I'm like, no, I'm like, I just
it's way too long.
Jesus Christ.
Way too long.
There's
and
literal.
I love a good long book, and the thing is a book like this, I can read it in 2 nights.
Yeah.
If it's written well, and if you're, if it's a page turner, which this is not.
Yeah.
It's a page turner in the last 100 pages.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help you when the first 550 are fucking character development and plot development that doesn't go anywhere.
But also
so
that.
Frustrating.
But also that there are little pages where Avenna is walking and talking.
Not necessary.
And you can take that out. You take that out. We get it. It's a big city. You have it for a couple pages. We get it. You could take that out. Take it out.
Right. Even conversations between Blushweaver and Lightsong, you kind of have the same conversation that happens over and over again. It's
like,
not
she
necessary.
wants sex.
Like, I know
she
they're
wants
trying
to jump him.
Like, that felt like it had to be pushed.
Yeah.
So that a relationship was built.
Yeah.
So that when she, spoiler alert, when she gets killed, he actually has a reason to feel something.
Yeah.
But you don't need to put, like, it was not, that could have been done better.
Yeah.
You know? So that's my major X.
Yeah.
Like, I literally wrote it in caps lock in my notes
too. It's too long. Yeah. It's like, I'm sorry. We have this conversation a lot of time on the show on past seasons. I can't believe I'm saying past seasons, but our literal complaint was to a book. This book is too long. We have shit to do.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I agree with you. It's just too long. It's 10 chapters too long. It's
probably
Yeah.
Honestly,
yeah.
Which is such a shame because it's a beautiful little story, but it's like the thing that I love so much about doing this podcast with you is I'm literally, like, technically it's work, but like, I get to nerd out and read my fantasy books and then give my opinions on them, and I love it. However, this book felt like work because I was like, shit, I have to read tonight because I need to get it done. Like, literally today, I finished reading it.
I read it.
Like, I'm not even kidding you. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to actually get this done? But
me too. I'm like, oh my God.
We're like, okay, this is actually interesting and good. I was flipping through it fast.
Yeah.
Christ.
So, that's
your next X.
I just agree with you. I just let's move on. So, like you said, like, my next X. Listen, people, I was so hyped for this book. You know why? Talking weapons. I wanted talking weapons. Everyone was hyping this.
Oh
talking weapons. Talking fucking weapons. Lies. Lies. Like Nightblood. He only talks a few times in the book, and we really don't get an explanation, not really, of the sword and why it can talk. We get, like, we got an explanation, but not, like, there's a big question mark. And the sword's not that fucking interesting to begin with. It's not that interesting. And he goes, yo, what's up? Can I kill him? Okay. And I'm like, it's just the only talking weapon in the book? Now, other reviewers, they will make it sound like it's every weapon. No! It's just one fucking weapon. I'm so upset. The promise, again, of a thing that does not happen in a fucking book. I swear, Brandon, when we eventually get to Skyward, because we are gonna do it sometime in this season. If I don't get my talking spaceship, you're gonna hear about it. You all do. That fucking spaceship better be sassy. It better be sassy. Damn it. Yeah. That's my big X.
Even like there better be a talking one. It better be a sassy face.
Yeah,
okay?
It better be. Like, it better have a LB effect. It better be sassy. God damn it! If it's not, I'm fucking coming for you, and I'm coming for all you book YouTubers. I'm coming for everyone. So that's my big X. Is that?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because I honestly, we chose this book a little while ago, and my life has just been, there's a lot been going on.
Yeah.
So I completely forgot that that's why we were excited to read this book.
Yeah.
And brought it up. I was like, oh yeah, huh. Like it's not the main attraction of this book. It's not like if I were to say, hey, read this book because. It wouldn't be because there's a talking weapon.
No.
You know, like it's a cool thing. I think I like how it's done personally, but not with the promise that you're coming from.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there.
Yeah.
My next X that I have, it's kind of related to what you're talking about here. And it's kind of like I kind of touched on it beforehand. But we have a lot of unanswered, I don't want to say there's a lot of unanswered questions because there's not a lot of like, we're not left on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
You know, it is a complete story, which I do enjoy. And personally, something that I really enjoy is, which I realized I didn't say earlier, but with the relationship between Susebron and Ciri, we see their relationship start her like prostrate on the floor in a small little black room, and then we see them at the end in fresh air, standing side by side as a strong couple. I love that. I love that juxtaposition there. Anyway, what I don't like is. I feel like he's trying to tell a bigger story than he actually contained in the book.
Yeah, and that's what I felt too.
There's a bunch of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Like I really do like how he brought in, Ciri is trying to understand, she's trying to find out more information about the history of this place. So we have this storyteller give her like sort of this vague history of what's going on here. And we have this understanding that there's this many war that broke out. And throughout the book, we understand the 5 original people. I forget what they're called. But we have the 5 like researchers basically, 2 of whom have died. Other ones exist. Mm-hmm. The frustrating part about this is that there are clear setups in here that don't get followed through. Yeah. Like, for example, Light Song, we're wondering who he is. Yeah. I feel like there's a bit of a red herring, and that's okay. I feel like there's a bit of a red herring with, oh my gosh, what was his name? Ulster? Yeah, Ulster. Where he got killed by Basher, and part of me was like, oh, is that like Light Song's previous life? And I feel like that's intentional and that's okay. And then we're sort of led in a different direction. Yeah. Which is cool, which is good. And then I'm thinking like, oh, well, he doesn't believe in gods. He was, surrounded, like he's got these dreams of like fighting Idrian kind of thing. And we're fully led to believe that he is an Idrian returned. Yeah. And that's why he doesn't believe in all that sort of stuff. And then it just kind of doesn't come to anything.
Yeah.
Like, we find out who he is, and it's like it's very much like, oh, he saved his cousin, like his niece from drowning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there could have been so much more done with that, and there isn't. I think, like, part of that, it's a choice. You know, it's a choice that he made, and that's fully valid. But I feel like because there was more setup around it, like there's these dreams that he's having, we don't really get towards any of it. And it's like, oh man, that could have been cut. We have this character of Jewel, who's, you know, part of she's given this mystery at first, and she's a drab, and she's, you know, part of the mercenary crew, and, you know, she's got this relationship with Claude. Yeah. That goes nowhere. Yeah. We don't really get any answers on that. We have this question of, you know, Nightblood, and I can't even remember the name of the woman who was supposed to have created her. And we get the backstory there. Yeah. And there is like, oh, she was my sister, and now I'm going to torture you. Yeah. But that isn't really flushed out very well. And I get it, and that's why I say, you know, he's trying to tell a bigger story than is contained within the book, because he is trying to give all of this backstory to all of these characters, and he is trying to keep that feeling of, you know, twists and turns, which I liked. Yeah. I liked that there was certain questions that only got revealed as we continued forward, and I couldn't guess at them, and I was trying to guess at them, and that I enjoyed, because generally I immediately guess at what's going on, and I read it like 200, 300 pages later, I'm like, yeah, I knew it. Yeah. And so it's kind of boring. Yeah. But, so I like that there was those unanswered sort of things, and there was that air of mystery in it, but it just really frustrated me that, you know, there were these things that were introduced and then not really resolved properly, or if they were resolved, it kind of felt half-assed. Yeah. And, you know, if you had cut out all of that extra stuff. Yeah. Because there's a lot of, like, there's a lot of empty You've got
pages.
The pages. Yeah. You just got the wrong stuff on the pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So I just, that was a big X for me, just because it was like, it was so frustrating. There wasn't necessarily any dire unanswered questions. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't anything that was like major, that was like, oh my God, what about that? You never answered that. But it was just like, there was this feeling that never really got resolved. Yeah. And that I didn't like.
Now, when I my check mark saying this had better political intrigue than Mistborn, right? Yes, I was comparing it to Mistborn. I can only compare stuff to what previous I read from the author, right? Now, that is a big check mark, because I do think he does this better. However, I am going to say, jumping off what you're saying, when I was saying, like, he dangles the carrot really well, however, sometimes in the book, he dangles it too much. Yeah. So things are left hanging, and you're like, okay, you have me. What? And then, for instance, the beginning of the book, where Sirius talking with Blue Fingers, and there's all this discussion about the God King and all this kind of stuff, and she goes in, and she's stripping down, and she's doing that for like a week, and we read that. I'm like, we get it, we understand. You don't have to have all this stuff in the book. You don't have to repeat yourself, because you've already set this up. Just why? I wanted to know why, like, you set up this mystery. Okay, it's established that something is going on. Move on. And it just doesn't. It just, at points, it just stops dead, and you're like, oh God. Oh God. So on your point, yeah, I agree with you 100%. He just, like I said, dangles the carrot, and instead of moving on, he just stays there at points, and it just makes it really frustrating. And I I agree with you in that respect as well.
Yeah.
And I kind of, and you're right. This, you know what this is like? This is almost, because this is a young adult novel, but it's in disguise. He wanted to write a high fantasy novel. That's what it seems like in the book. And he wanted to have this bigger discussion. But it's not here. It's not here. Yeah. There's some...
You can see that he wanted to do it, but he didn't follow through on
this
it.
Is not like...
It's frustrating because it's like, if you're not going to follow through, then just don't.
Yeah. I mean, there's a clear difference between YA fantasy and high fantasy, right? I mean, we've seen it with the fifth Earth trilogy, right? And we compare it to this. That is high fantasy. And I almost want to say he wanted to write a high fantasy book, but it's a YA novel, Brendan. It's a YA novel at the end of the day. It's not high fantasy. This discussion you want, all the stuff you want to set up, it's not here. The book is what it is. It's not anything more than what it is. And I kind of, it's a fine, but I mean, this is not high fantasy, but it's, if that makes any sense, it's a mask. This book desperately wants to have that conversation. It desperately wants to explore that. It desperately wants to be high fantasy, but it's not. And I think that's the biggest problem with the book. It's not high fantasy, but it wants to be. You can tell it by the magic system, by the comparing to everything, by wanting him desperately to have that conversation. But it's not high fantasy. It's YA, and that's totally fine. I mean, Shadow and Bone. It knows what it is, and that's, like, my opinion. One of the best YA trilogies, the Grisha trilogy in YA, and that's nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong, but know what you are and know what you're writing. You're not writing high fantasy. You stop it. This is not high fantasy. It's YA science fiction, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not a big person on classification of different novels. Like sometimes I go in these forums or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, would you classify this as like high fantasy or like urban fantasy?" Or like, "I know this isn't this type of fantasy, but it's this type," and I'm like, "Dude, like whatever, it doesn't fucking matter." You know what I mean? So it's like the definitions of things don't really matter to me. But as you're defining your book and writing your book, it is helpful to understand what category and what niche you are aiming for. Otherwise, you do get into that section where you feel like a different genre. You feel like it feels off. And that's why those genres do exist. Not to say that you can't play the line in between those. You certainly can. But there's things missing from this because it's not playing the line as well as it could.
So, one of my biggest X's, and we'll move to your X's after, but this is my fun. There's like a lot of other X's, but I'll end with this. Female protagonist. Brendan.
Oh my God.
Brendan. All right. We had this issue with Mistborn. You're not there yet with female protagonist. You're not. I one Siri, and that's that you've hidden her very well in the book, but Theory, Nirvana, and all these other female protagonists that you try to write, it's heroic, and they're just boring, and they're not. Avenna, I couldn't care two shits. I really couldn't. Jewel, I couldn't give two shits about her. I really...
Right.
I really couldn't. I couldn't. He has this problem of wanting to set up these female heroines. But they just fall flat on their face at the end. Like, Ciri, there's something interesting with that character, and I mean, I like how she was written at the end as well. She was written competently, and she wasn't like a at the end of the day, backdoor character.
Yeah.
But all the other females in the book are just paper thin, uninteresting. The character development, you try to do something with Havana, and it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And when she is all alone on the streets, that's when the book really drags.
Yeah.
And it's not there, Brennan. It's not like I'm talking to him. It's very sad because Mistborn, we had this conversation with Mistborn.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you made this good character, but at the end of the day, you didn't write her well enough, and at the end of the day, you didn't write these female characters well enough, and they're paper thin, and that's my biggest X, if that makes any sense. One of my biggest X's.
No, that totally makes sense. That was also my last X.
All right.
The female fucking characters in this book. Holy fucking shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
now, I will say, I notice and I see that he is trying to bring in the strong female protagonist.
Yeah.
I see him trying to do it. He's actively working on getting those into his stories, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
It's not like this is a story about a man's struggle and the lady is there just as the love interest.
Yeah.
That is not what we're talking about. However, the characters can be done so much better.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you did them dirty, man.
Yeah.
And it was
again.
Literally, I had this thought as I was finishing up the book. We've got all of our sort of like lovable main heroes on top of we've got this crazy ending where they're on top of the palace, the wind is whipping, we've got armies going out, all this sort of shit, right? And we have this shot of Vivenna with the rapier at her side, in the tunic, hair uncontrolled, the strong and powerful queen, and it's just
forced.
So cliche.
It's so forced.
It's very forced.
It's not earned at all.
Literally, as soon as we have the second princess entering the city, being like, I'm going to save my sister, I'm like, guaranteed. By the end of this, she's going to be swashbuckling, having learnt this new magic. Mm-hmm. You can see it a mile coming. Yeah. And you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with playing into cliches. Yeah. If they're done well, like a good writer can definitely play into them and still make it I know we've talked about this in another book. I don't know, in the myriads of books that we've talked about, we've talked about this option of using a cliche. Oh, right. That was in the Grisha series, which was using that cliche, but doing it really well. Yeah. And using that cliche for your own benefit. It was frustrating. And it was super frustrating seeing these characters as well, because we have the two princesses that are our main female leads. And we also have Blushweaver, Allmother, and Mercy Star. Oh my God. And Jewel. Those are our other female characters that we see in here. We don't really see any others. Yeah. To be honest. We don't. So what that means is we have no conversations that exist in this book outside of the last conversation between Ciri and her sister.
Yeah.
Between two women.
Yeah.
We literally don't. We have like a well, we don't even have a conversation between Jewel and Viviana.
Yeah.
Because Jewel refuses to talk to her. Now that's a character choice, whatever. Actually, no, we do have a conversation. So, okay. So this is the thing, is technically this passes the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Because we do have Jewel and Viviana. They have that argument.
Yeah.
It is not about a man that they're interested in.
Yeah.
It's about something else. And they have that conversation.
Yeah.
That is the only conversation, though, that happens between two women.
Yeah.
And Jewel is not really given much of a character.
Yeah.
She's like this surly woman. I don't really know what she looks like, to be honest. Like, I don't know if that's described. We do get the description of the All-Mother, Blush Weaver, and Mercy Star, and it's really frustrating because it's like those are the three tropes of, like, I don't know if he intentionally did that, and if that's like purposeful of like these are how the gods are supposed to look, and we have these three tropes of like mother crone maiden kind of thing. Which is okay, you can play with that, and if it is intentionally done, then, you know, hats off, whatever. Yeah. And, like, that's a whole commentary in itself. However, how it's done is really frustrating. Yeah. Because we see the All-Mother in, like, one conversation, and she gives up her command super easy, and there's really not much there. Then we see Blush Weaver, and she's, like, intentionally sexy and all that sort of stuff, which I know I mentioned this earlier. I think it is done relatively well, but it is a little bit much, to be honest. And it's like, it seems very, you know, it's written by a dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and then we also have Mercy Star, and it's like, oh yeah, see, we can have fat women in here too, and they can be attractive too. And I feel like, yeah, okay, good, you're on the right direction maybe, but it just isn't, it's not there. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, I could complain about this forever, and I hear the tone of my voice just raising in pitch and me sounding like that kind of woman. But it's so frustrating. Yeah, it really is. Reading this, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And then we have the young princess that gets betrothed to the king. Yeah. And then, oh my gosh, she's actually really shy and doesn't know anything, and she teaches him, and And like, as much as I did like their relationship and how that grew and how she did get that bit of character arc, and how Vivienne did get that character arc. It felt very forced. Yeah. It didn't feel natural. It wasn't like, I even felt in the Mistborn trilogy, the first book, the Mistborn book, our protagonist in there, she was written well. And I think he did a better job of writing female character, even though there's really only one or two in that book, than he did here. And it's just, just, they felt so flat. And like where we have these other characters in here that are three-dimensional, like we have Lightsong, we have his brother, we have Vasher, and we have oh my god, the Drent or whatever. Yeah. And we even have like the stupid dumb guy. Yeah. That like she's supposed to sort of like, but doesn't really like. She's more. And then there was this feeling of like, oh, you know, there's going to be a romance between Vivienne and Vasher, but it doesn't really get discovered. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm okay that there wasn't like a focus on the romance for her, because if there was more focus on that, I would have been more pissed off, to be honest, because I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here. It's very annoying. Anyway, all this to say, big X on the female characters in this book. Yeah. Really frustrating. It wasn't as frustrating as some other male authors that I've read that write female characters and they're just awful, but it was not where it should be or where it could be, and it was just annoying. All right, so that's your final X. That's my final X. Now it's time for our final thoughts, and we either give this a thumbs up or a thumbs down, a recommend or not recommend. And I'm gonna start. I'm gonna do it. I do it. I caveman do it now. I'm gonna do it. Jump in.
I will. I think there's some good things in the book. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's quite there. I think this book wants to be high fantasy, and it's not. It's not. And this is the biggest trope sometimes with authors where they try to write YA, but they're like, you know, there's so much connotation with YA. They're like, oh, we're gonna try to make this high fantasy as well, and you just can't. You just shoot yourself in the foot. Also, this book doesn't play well at all. You can't reread it like some other books. And there's some definitely good moments in the book. However, for me, I don't think it's there. Unfortunately, the biggest negative for me, biggest X, this is not high fantasy. It's YA. Know it. Embrace it.
Yeah.
They're two different things. You can't blend. That's like saying, I'm going to blend spaghetti with ice cream. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
I am sure there is someone out there that's made it work, but for us plebs,
for all those reasons we discussed, I'm not recommending this.
Yeah.
This is 2 times now for Brandon Sanderson. I've been very disappointed. Like, I wanted to like this book. I wanted to love this book.
I know. You were so stoked. So stoked for this book, and I feel bad for you almost. I don't have the same relationship to this author.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you don't have a relationship with this author, but like, you know, I don't have the same connection to him as an author. I enjoy his writing. However, for me, also I'm a not recommend. Now, I'm not a not recommend as in like, don't read this book. I'm not going to like see it in someone's hands and be like, oh man, you're wasting your time with that. Or like, you really like, you know, FYI, that book's shit. Mm-hmm. I don't think so on that, you know? And I feel like, however, with that being said, I'm not going to give it a recommend just because I'm not going to tell someone to put it down. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is not a book that I am itching to tell my friends, oh my gosh, you got to go and pick up this book. Yeah. You know, you got to read some of his work. Yeah. I'm not, and I want to. That's the thing.
I wanted to love this book.
Really lovely moments. I feel like it's got some really lovely characters that are, like, honestly, some of those characters are going to live on in my brain, as good writing does. However, the book itself, it's not a big page turner for me. Yeah. And that's my biggest thing. That's probably my biggest thing for whether or not I recommend something or whether or not I keep it on my shelf, is whether or not it's a big page turner for me. Yeah. I think the mystery's done really well. I might keep it and go back to it again. Maybe. Unlikely, but maybe. But it doesn't stand up with the rest of the recommendations that we have given. And for that reason, I gotta say, do not recommend. Yeah, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Brandon. I'm sorry, buddy.
I wanted to love this book. I wanted to love this book. I wanted talking fucking weapons. What are you doing to me, Brandon? I swear, when we get to Skyward, and we will, I swear, Brandon, the ship better be sassy.
There will be capital W words.
There'll be words, and I will say them. So, guys, I think that's a great way to end it. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere, LB. So, anyway, guys, what did you think of Warbreaker? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And, ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering where to catch all our book reviews, www.patreon.com/mustseetv, all one word. For Patreon supporters, you do get these episodes without the lead-in show. So, there you go. our admins are like, mention Patreon more, you idiot. So, yeah, there you go. Bob's your uncle. So, guys, I'm going to get the outro, and I'll be back. Wait. Yeah, okay. Before I mute it, she said something. LP said something. And we'll see, and we'll turn the page. Boom. But I'm going to let LB say it from now on, because I always forget it.
Because you don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. Caveman. So, guys, I'm going to get the outro, and I'll be back. And we'll be back. Boop. Alright, guys, there we go. So, guys, we will see you on Tuesday. It's a 3-day long break for me, just doing maintenance, make sure I'm all good for next week. We have a couple of premieres next week. Actually, we have one premiere next week. I think, no, we don't. Yeah, we do. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at the schedule. But until we see each other again, my friends, take care, be safe, be well, and we love you guys. 90 billion thousand.